On this program, we have spoken quite a bit about the heroin epidemic that is plaguing just about every corner of this country, certainly in many places throughout our region. And since it's proving so hard to stop people from shooting up, a New York City lawmaker wants to give people a legal place to do just that. Now, there would be medical supervision to make it safe. Now, the mayor of Ithaca up in the Finger Lake region is also proposing to do the same thing. Now, it's a very controversial way to deal with a very serious problem, and our own Dominic spoke with Democratic Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal about her proposal.
Assemblywoman, are you willing to acknowledge your idea is controversial?
Well, I agree, absolutely. The idea to have safe injection facilities around the state where people who are addicted to heroin can go and safely use heroin with sterile needles under supervision of medical professionals who will be there in case they overdose, and also connect them with treatment inside. So many people who are addicted to heroin use it on the street, use it in public restrooms, in the park, anywhere. They need their fix. What the idea is to connect them to a safe place to reduce the public harm to themselves, as well as public harm with contaminated needles on the street, kids watching this thinking this is normal behavior, and connect them to mental health services, physical health services, treatment, detox, housing, food. I mean, there's a panoply of services that heroin addicts, for the most part, do not access.
But Assemblywoman, this is tantamount to encouraging drug use, some will say.
Yeah, I have heard that, and I think people who say that do really not have enough education about the problem, about what addiction really is. Addiction isn't a decision that you make. Should I have some heroin today or should I not? It's an imperative. Your body demands it. And we've seen people who are addicted to heroin, they rob from their families to get their fix. They're in a different world and they need serious help. But allowing them to do it in a safe injection facility does not mean there's going to be an array of cocaine that you can choose from and then sit back and have a drink and inject. That's not the way it is. And by saying that you're enabling them is really ignorant.
But what about all the legal challenges?
Right. There are always legal challenges. For example, maybe 20 years ago, there were legal challenges to syringe exchange programs, which ensures that people who are addicted have the opportunity to use clean needles, which then spares them from getting Hep C, which is spread by contaminated needles, HIV, AIDS. And part of the idea with the safe injection facility is that we cut down dramatically on the number of people who get those diseases because they won't be using contaminated needles.
This sounds like one of the episodes from the HBO show, The Wire.
Thought I might legalize drugs.
You free to make your drops, collect what need collecting, won't nobody bother you. Got my word on it.
Well, you know, it may sound like that, but it really is a much deeper and innovative approach. It's actually being used in 10 countries around the world, in 66 cities, and there are 98 sites where people do it. It's manageable. It's not like you're going to stroll down Broadway and walk into an injection facility, you know. It's still being developed. I'm developing legislation on it with the help of advocates, legal scholars, to see how best to implement this in New York State. So, you know, it's not happening tomorrow, but the time for discussion and moving this idea forward is now.
But is it dead on arrival?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's a broad coalition of groups. There's even a group called SIF NYC, Safe Injection Facility NYC, which has proposals and has a lot of documentation to back up this proposal. So it's an idea that has been percolating sort of without notice, and I'm bringing it out into the open so we can discuss it and we can find a way to help addicts lead a more healthy life.
Okay, a lot to chew over here. be clear, Mayo, this is not providing just somebody a clean needle. This is giving the needle, this is the environment, and this is with the legal blessing of the state, in this case to shoot up heroin. Give me the legal ramifications or consequences of this.
Well, the legal ramifications are, number one, what happens if somebody dies there in the facility? The question is going to be, is the government going to run this, or is it going to be a private outsourced facility? But the other issue is, why limit it just to heroin? So if you're on heroin, you can go there and get high, but if you smoke crack, you get arrested because you're out on the street, and you have many of the same issues. The other component is this: the pharmaceutical industry bears a huge responsibility in terms of the number of people addicted to opioids. And it seems to me, actually, that it would be better to actually give them OxyContin or some other opiate that's prescribed by a doctor, where at least you're not worried about needle exchanges, because lots of people end up becoming addicted to heroin after sports injuries and after the prescription runs out, and they were overprescribed the opiates.
I don't know how I feel about this, Amy. Part of me says, if we're going to be honest with each other, and I've done a lot of stuff in this program about heroin, it's in suburbs, it's in rural communities, it's not the back alley drug from when we were younger that it used to be, and it affects every single cross-section of society. This at least is opening our eyes and being honest about it, but do I want the government to not only give its blessing, but to have a hand in it?
Well, first of all, they're trying to enact it at the state level, but it's already illegal at the federal level. So under the Controlled Substances
It's already
Act,
illegal also, but look what
Right.
you do in Colorado, and you look what you do in Washington,
you need to
Oregon
change
with
the
marijuana.
law. Right.
No, the government looks the other way, frankly.
correct. But you
From
know
time
what?
to time.
The idea is great. It's a detox program. The details are all wrong. People can show up there with their own drugs that they've pre-purchased. They're injecting themselves and then they're leaving and doing who knows what. If you want to detox people, they have to check in. They then have to have the medical staff inject them a controlled dose, and they have to stay there.
You're right. Everything you say is right, but then I can see the Assemblywoman turn around, Jimmy, say, but then they won't come, and then you're not dealing with a real problem.
Well, let me just say that from my perspective, it should be discussed. I don't know where I come out in the final analysis, but this is what we do know. We do know that the amount of heroin deaths from overdoses, from unclean needles, we know that the spread of diseases is rampant because of heroin use, and we do know statistically in the 10 countries and 66 cities that it is implemented, it saves lives. Just does. It saves lives, it prevents some criminal activity. The bigger question is, there's got to be something else, as Amy says, attached to it, because the end goal needs to be to get these people off the drug and not just let them come in once a day and shoot the drug.
And we, of course, will continue to update you on the developments as it makes its way, or does make its way, through the state legislature. But I want to save time for our final debate of the night. Coming up next, you may have heard Hulk Hogan. He won big. I'm not talking in the ring, but a Herculean judgment in his lawsuit against Gawker. They had posted a sex tape. It could cost the website $140 million. Is that going to change the way media companies behave in the future? That and more after this.